All right, well, welcome back, Facebook world. Sorry, we're having a few technological problems here on our end. We were live and we lost the connection, but now we are back. So welcome back. My name is Tyler Lyson. I'm one of the scientists at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. In particular, I'm a paleontologist, so I study Earth's history. I study a number of things ranging from the extinction of the dinosaurs to what happened after the extinction of the dinosaurs and sort of the origin of the modern world. But today I'm going to talk to you about one of my first loves, and that is turtles. I have always been fascinated by turtles, and I know that might come across, it might be a shocker for some of you given this amazing shirt that I'm wearing. This presentation allows me to wear this wonderful shirt. I want to share with you some amazing facts about turtles and then their rich evolutionary history. Now I'm going to share my screen here. And please, while I'm giving my presentation, I would love to hear from many of you out there listening. Where are you watching from? Do you have a pet turtle? Do you have any amazing turtle facts that I can add to my own turtle facts? So please just comment in the Facebook section if you don't mind. So here we go, the evolutionary history of turtles. Turtles are absolutely remarkable animals. They have a completely bizarre body plan thanks to this, the shell, right? The shell that completely encapsulates the neck and skull and shoulder girdles. It makes it so diagnostic and different than any other living animal today. Now, the turtle shell is not made up of a single bone, but rather it's made up of over 60 bones and includes the spinal bones down the midline here. It also includes some of the rib bones here. It even incorporates some of the shoulder girdle bones into the shell. Now, I think because of this really iconic body plan and just how cool turtles are, turtles completely permeate in today's culture, from Aesop's fable of the tortoise and the hare to the totally rad Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then something I recently learned is that one of my favorite, the Game of Thrones, may have had an origination with turtles. So here's George R.R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones, and here he is at the 2018 Emmy Awards, and he's supporting this amazing turtle pin right here. You might ask, well, why? I certainly asked why. And here he says, I decided, he had pet turtles growing up, and he basically said that he would make up stories about how they killed each other, his pet turtles, how they betrayed each other, how they fought for their kingdom. So he says, Game of Thrones, HBO's blockbuster hit series, right, actually began with turtles. So cool, I think. Not only that, but turtles play a prominent role in many different cultures' origin of the Earth story. Here is but one origin of the Earth story, the Hindu Earth, and here they argue that the Earth rests upon the backs of 4 elephants, and these elephants in turn rest upon the back of a turtle shell. So turtles play a prominent role in many different cultures on how the Earth actually formed. My favorite origin of the Earth story is this one here, where this story argues that the Earth rests upon the back of a turtle shell. You might ask, well, what is the turtle resting upon? And of course, the answer to that is that it's turtles all the way down. By far my favorite origin of the Earth story. Now, today, there are over 356 living species of turtles. This is a world map showing biodiversity hotspots for living turtles. So in dark red, those are areas where we have a lot of different types of turtles. And so you can see here in the eastern part of the United States is a biodiversity hotspot. We have over 60 different species of turtles in the eastern part of the United States. Not only that, but turtles are quite morphologically diverse, and they inhabit a wide range of environments. So from the large Galapagos land living tortoises from the Galapagos Islands to many different turtles that live in the oceans. Here's a leatherback sea turtle, to a whole array of types of turtles that live in lakes, streams, ponds, swamps, rivers. And they're quite morphologically diverse. Some have really long necks, some have really short necks, others have these weird spines along the perimeter of the shell, others have spines on the tops of their shell. They're quite a diverse group of animals. Now, this leads me to my first turtle fun fact, which I just love the fun facts of turtles. They are one of the longest lived animals. One of the most famous examples is Harriet. This is Darwin's tortoise. So Darwin picked up this Galapagos tortoise on his trip around the world in the Beagle when he was coming up with his idea of evolution via natural selection. And then Harriet eventually made her way down to Australia, where she unfortunately died in 2006, but at an estimated age of 175 years old. So I always tell people, if they have a pet turtle, they should also have a will, because that turtle very well might outlive you. So you need to take care of that turtle and make sure it has a proper home for after you're gone. Absolutely crazy, right? How long turtles can live. Another amazing thing is that some turtles can live up to 24 hours without oxygen. Turtles have this amazing physiology where they're able to shunt blood in their heart, oxygenated blood from unoxygenated blood. They can slow down their metabolism to a point where they have 1 to 2 heartbeats per hour. Sorry, I should say hour. That's absolutely crazy. And as a result of that, turtles can stay submerged in cold water for up to 6 months. So let's think about that for a minute. We have a lot of turtles that live at high latitudes. So turtles like the painted turtle, for example, that lives in southern Canada. And in the fall, that turtle goes up, takes its last breath, goes down to the bottom of the pond freezes over, and that turtle just stays down there for up to 5 to 6 months, waiting for spring to appear and for the ice to melt so it can come back up and take another breath of air. I think that's pretty cool. And then finally, my last fun fact. I only have so much time today, so I can't share all of my fun facts, but is that some turtles can breathe out of their butts. Yes, you heard me correctly. Some turtles can actually uptake some oxygen from their butts. This is something that scientists call cloacal respiration. And so one of the most famous examples of this is the Fitzroy River turtle in Australia. And here you can see its rear end. It's breathing out of its butt. It's pulling oxygenated water into its butt, where it has special tissue where it can pull out the oxygen and then use the oxygen for metabolic purposes. So again, this is something that scientists call cloacal respiration. So you can see that turtles have a remarkable physiology, but they also have an incredible fossil record going back some 260 million years. So here are just some of the fossils I'm going to talk about that lead up to modern day turtles. Starting with the very oldest known proto-turtle. This is an animal called Unitosaurus. It's from rocks dated to be 260 million years old. It's from South Africa. And you might look at it and you might think, well, that's weird. You can see the skull up here. That's where the eye would be. And then here are all the ribs. You might think, well, it doesn't have a shell. And you're absolutely right. But what it does have is the earliest beginnings of a shell. So here you can see it has these distinctively broadened ribs. And these broadened ribs eventually meld together to form the large part of the top shell or of the carapace. And so just like any other complex evolutionary structure, these structures usually sort of evolve or appear over millions of years. You can think of other examples like the bird feather, our eyes. These are complex structures that don't just appear instantaneously. So here's the oldest known turtle with broadened ribs. The next really important animal or fossil that really tells us a lot about how and when the turtle shell evolved is this animal here, called Odontocheles. Now, Odontocheles is from rocks that are 220 million years old from China. And you can see here, here's its skull and the neck, its tail's down here. And you can see it has really big, broad ribs. Here are those broad ribs again, just like the other old turtle, proto-turtle, Unitosaurus. But unlike Unitosaurus, it has a fully developed belly shell or plastron. So this is a proto-turtle with broad ribs with half of a shell. And then finally, the oldest fully shelled turtle is this animal here called Perganocheles. And this is from Germany, from rocks that have been dated to be 210 million years old. And at 210 million years old, you can see this thing looks an awful lot like a modern day turtle. Turtles have not changed a lot in the last 210 million years, which I think is pretty remarkable. So we can, add in these fossils to show how and when the turtle got its shell. So turtles sort of evolved from or split off from an animal that looked an awful lot like a lizard, like this. Has pretty normal looking ribs. The first big transformation we saw was the ribs becoming much broader. Then we get the advent of the belly shell with Odontocheles. And then finally, we get the full shell at 210 million years ago. Now, I worked with an animator. I love working with artists. And I worked with this artist to come up with this animation for an evolutionary scenario of how the turtle shell formed. I integrated these fossil data as well as some developmental data to come up with an animation of how the turtle got its shell. So here we go. Here's the animation. This isn't, an animal. So the first transformation in this early proto-lizard would be the broadening of the ribs. And that's an animal we didn't talk about. But the next thing that we get is an exact splitting in half of the ribs in vertebrae, going from 18 down to 9, as in Unitosaurus. We talked about that critter. Then we get the development of the belly shell down here, or the plastron, in an animal called Odontocheles 220 million years ago. And then we get the full development of the perimeter bones and the advent of the full shell at 210 million years ago. And from 210 million years to the modern, not a lot changes. We lose a bone or two in the belly. We have some shape changes here and there, but here we get to a modern day snapping turtle. So that right there is 260 million years of turtle evolution in about a 45-second animation. Now, turtles appear 260 million years ago. So down here, we've got time. On this axis, we have sort of the diversity of life. And whenever this green line graph goes down, that marks a mass extinction in Earth's history. Now, there have been 5 mass extinctions in Earth's history, and this is when 75% or more of life on Earth, species go extinct. And there have been 5 of them. Now, turtles appear at 260 million years ago, and so they've survived these 2 mass extinctions, including the largest of all mass extinctions, this one called the Great Dying at the end of the Permian. How did they do when dinosaurs went extinct, right? At 66 million years ago. So 66 million years ago, a giant asteroid strikes Earth, wipes out the dinosaurs. So all the giant dinosaurs go extinct. All of the flying pterosaurs, the flying reptiles go extinct. The sea creatures with the coiled shells, they go extinct. Mammals, snakes, plants suffer mass extinction. What about turtles? How did they do during this interval of time? Well, here in North America, we think that only about 2 species go extinct. 2 species is all. I think that is incredible. And this is one of the species that goes extinct. This is a large land-dwelling turtle called Basilemys, and it goes extinct when the asteroid strikes. But otherwise, turtles do remarkably well. Not only do the number of turtles, the diversity of turtles do well across this extinction interval, but the largest animal to survive this mass extinction is a big soft-shell turtle called Axostemys. And this is an artistic rendition of what the world would have looked like in the immediate aftermath of this mass extinction caused by a giant asteroid striking Earth. And there would have been a lot of ferns in the world. And then we have the largest animal to survive the mass extinction, a big turtle. And then right next to it, I've put the largest mammal that survived that mass extinction. And you can see this mammal is only about the size of a rat. So pretty incredible. Turtles are able to do well, not only in size-wise, but also diversity-wise across this mass extinction interval. And this turtle, the turtle's name is called Exoskeletons, is related to turtles that are still with us today. It's related to some of these soft shell turtles. This is the Yangtze giant soft shell turtle that's today found in Southeast Asia. And the turtles that survived this mass extinction would have been about the same size as this particular animal here, clocking in at a couple of hundred pounds. And so you can see some humans here for scale. So turtles have survived 3 of the 5 mass extinctions in Earth's history, which I think is absolutely amazing. And I think how they're able to survive those mass extinctions has a lot to do with some of those fun facts I was telling you about. It relates back to their physiology and how they're able to sort of hunker down for months at a time and wait for the bad times to pass and then sort of come up at a later date. So turtles, I hope you can see, are remarkable from an evolutionary perspective. They've evolved, they've appeared in the fossil record 260 million years ago. Their shell evolved over the course of around 50 million years. Fully formed turtles, turtle shells appeared 210 million years ago, and they haven't really changed since then. They have a remarkable physiology, and thanks to that, they have been able to survive 3 of the last 5 mass extinction events in Earth's history. So I, of course, could go on and on about turtles because I'm absolutely fascinated by turtles, but I really would like to maybe answer some questions that you all might have. So I thank you for your time, and yeah, let's answer some questions.
That sounds great, Tyler. Let me give you a virtual that amazing presentation. Hi, everyone. My name is Memory Williams. I'm in the marketing department here at the museum, and I'm just popping up like I do every now and then to give your questions to Tyler. And Tyler, we have some really great questions here that I think people are really going to want you to answer. So how about we start with this question from Amber. Amber asks, is any example of convergent for turtles, turtle-like creatures throughout history, like carcinization for crabs?
Right, so that is a great question, Amber. The turtle shell has appeared exactly once in evolutionary history. I think that's really remarkable. Of course, shells have appeared multiple times. Like you said, crabs have shells, like ankylosaur dinosaurs have shells, armadillos have shells, but they form a shell in a very, very different way. They form a shell by basically turning different scales into bone. And they get more and more of these scales that turn into bone to form a shell. turtles form a shell by broadening their ribs, by including their shoulder girdle. So that particular way of forming a shell has appeared exactly once in in Earth's history. But that's a great question, because shells have certainly appeared multiple times.
We have just a comment from Andrew who says, Tyler, you're a rock star.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that. I've never been called that before.
Hey. And here's a question from D. Fink. I have a rock that I found in the creek behind my house. It really looks like a turtle fossil. Where can I find out if it is a fossil of a turtle without damaging the rock? Potential turtle fossil.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, a lot of people go outside and they get into nature and they find different things when they're on hikes. And it sounds like you have found something. I always tell people to take pictures. Please just take pictures of the putative fossil and then send them to a local scientist. You can find a lot of our contact information online. If you live near another museum, I'm sure you can find their contact information online. And then just send them pictures, because we can do a lot with pictures. We can identify a lot of fossils. And I identify things for people every week when they send me pictures. And sometimes it turns into incredible things. Absolutely incredible finds. We've had some really amazing discoveries right here in the greater Denver area by people who were out, by construction workers who were just paying attention and found what they thought were fossilized bones, sent us pictures, and sure enough, they were. And we went out and excavated those fossils. So get in touch with your local scientists at a museum or university.
Talia asks, why do some turtles have heads that bend towards their side rather than point to the front?
Yeah.
She's talking about, yeah, why is that?
So there are two different ways. It's the two major types of turtles. There's the turtles that pull their heads in sort of like this, they pull it in straight in. And then there's the other ones that sort of fold their heads in. And it's just two different ways of protecting yourself. Because obviously the shell appeared first in the evolutionary history, and it wasn't until later that turtles were then able to pull in their limbs and their heads and their necks for protection. And there's just two different ways that turtles do it. And obviously there's a lot of adaptations in the neck that allow those turtles to be able to pull their heads in. And the ones that pull their heads in sort of like to the side like that, those are only found in the southern hemisphere today.
Nice. Oh, here's another sweet comment from Stacy. Stacy says, I have a little boy and a little girl who would love your autograph.
Well, thanks, Stacy. I'd be happy to provide that autograph.
And then let's do a few more questions. Let's do maybe one or two since we're running close to time. Monet asks, if you were one of the Ninja Turtles, which one would you be?
Oh, man.
This is good.
That is a deep philosophical question there, right? I think Michelangelo. I think that's my guy.
That's good.
I don't have a good reason, though.
I love it. Okay, so yeah, let's do maybe two more questions. We have a few more down here. Courtney asks, so turtle shells are exoskeletons?
Well, turtles, they form, that's a good question. That is actually a question that scientists have sort of debated for a long time. A lot of the bones form from the endoskeleton. Sort of the inner parts, because if the shell forms from the backbone and it forms from the ribs. So it gets into a bit of the terminological issue. But one of the big debates in turtle land was turtles appear to have their shoulder girdles inside of their shell, sort of like, and then they had the outside exoskeleton around that. And there's been a lot of scientific papers and a lot of work on basically how the turtle evolved its shell. And what even what even makes up the turtle shell? That's something that hasn't really been resolved until maybe the last 5 or so years. And there's still quite a big scientific debate as to what bones go into making the turtle shell. And are they exoskeleton or are they endoskeletal? And the answer is probably a little bit of both.
Awesome, awesome. And let's close with this last question from Sally, who asked, what does shellless mean?
Chellis, yeah, that's
Shellless, yes.
it means turtle.
It means turtle, okay, yeah.
Yep, that's right. So that's why everything, you know, Proto-Chelydra, Chelydra, you know, they always have that, it's a naming scheme, essentially. It's how we name things, and that's it means turtle.
A little insight on that. Great. Well, is there anything you want to leave us with, Tyler, as we close up for today?
I'm just happy to be able to finally put on this wonderful turtle shirt and be able to share with the world my passion for turtles. And I'm hoping that everybody learned, you know, will come away from this with 1 or 2 fun turtle facts. And if you guys think of any fun turtle facts for me, please reach out to me and let me know those cool turtle facts.